Hello, neighbors. It looks like I went live right away tonight. Nice. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me, whether it is September 9th at 7 o'clock or if it's some other time. This is a video that I hope people watch for years to come because I am going to share tonight a lesson that I learned years ago from one of my favorite mentors. And honestly, it's probably the most important thing I ever learned about local government. So, of course, I've got my trusty notepad over here. The little dog's over that way. She was very upset to find out that we were not going to the RIVER tonight, but we'll go tomorrow. So, you may have seen her cute little picture today. But anyway, I'm going to get right to it. So, first of all, and I promise I'm going to tie all these things together. It's going to seem like I'm talking about two different topics. And then once I get to number 3, you're going to completely understand why I'm discussing things the way that I am. First of all, I want to share some love for our Three Rivers Public Library. I was a 35-year-old college student when I very first started, and I had absolutely no technical skills whatsoever. I could barely turn a computer on. I didn't know how to download a PDF. I didn't know how to submit an assignment. I didn't know. I could basically do a Google search, and that was it. And I had to navigate what's called the Moodle, which God willing, KVCC has gotten rid of, but that was their like student portal where I had to submit all my assignments and get all my assignments and interact with professors and other classmates in discussion groups and different things. And I had no idea how to do any of it. And I lived in Fabius Township at the time, and I didn't have internet access because I lived out in the boonies, and it just would have been $1 million that, as a broke 35-year-old college student, I didn't have. I also didn't really have a ton of gas money to drive up to KVCC, which is like half an hour away, in the winter, way longer. So I very much relied on our Three Rivers Public Library and the amazing staff there. I can honestly say that if it weren't for the staff at the Three Rivers Public Library, back in 2005, 6, and 7, I don't know that I'd be sitting here with a master's degree today. So thank you to all those ladies. I'm sure some of you will see this someday, and I hope you all know who you are. Thank you for that. I still go to the library quite often to have things done. In fact, today I stopped by to print something out. I've recently had to scan several documents, and I don't have actually, I have 2 scanners, but neither one of them are hooked up because even though I work for a tech company, I still have very few tech skills in that respect. So I've never been able to link my computer to my scanner. So it's basically a, $300 copy machine. Anyway, so I go to the library and they happily take care of it. And the ladies are always so kind. And anytime I have a question, they answer it. And they're all just lovely. And I am incredibly grateful for the services that they provide. So that's my opener. It's a little love for the library. In fact, sorry, let this guy go by. In fact, I love these ladies so much that a couple of years ago, when I had to work outside my home for a while, I needed a dog sitter or two because I couldn't leave little Maggie home all day. And I created the flyers, and of course, I went to the library to print them out. But I actually left them with the staff because I needed somebody I could really, really trust, like with my heart, my soul, and a key to my house, to take care of my little girl. And one of the librarians has a key to my house and occasionally still will take care of my little girl. She did it for, the month or so that I worked there. And we had a lovely trade that we did where I would make her lunch and just give her a little bit of money. And she took incredible care of Maggie. So that's really how much I love these library ladies. So I want to make that very clear in the beginning of this video, because this ties into the real topic that we're here for tonight. Next up, I want to talk about my all-time favorite political mentor. I've worked on and off in campaigns for different candidates for, gosh, I would say 13 years, I think, maybe 14. I worked on both sides of the aisle. I've worked with a lot of wonderful people, but there's one person in particular, and actually his wife too. I'll probably talk about her on another video, but one person in particular who is just an off the charts amazing, wonderful human being who is so knowledgeable and kind and generous that I'm so grateful that I've had the chance to know him and that I had a chance to work with him and learn from him. And one of the most important things he taught me was, while we were sitting at a municipal meeting together one night, he leaned over and he said, "You want to know where they hide everything? It's the consent agenda. That's where they hide the stuff they don't want you to see." The consent agenda. What the heck is the consent agenda? So I flipped over the agenda because they had it printed out, and I started to read. And I'm listening, and the meeting goes on, and it comes time for the consent agenda. And they essentially say, and there's like 5 or 6 or 10, I don't even remember how many different things in this category of the meeting's agenda. And they essentially said, okay, all in favor of the consent, approving the consent agenda? Everybody say aye. Everybody said aye. Motion carried. No discussion. So when I got home, I jumped online and I dug into what's called the packet, which is the rest of the information that comes with the agenda. And I saw that they spent like $200,000 in this consent agenda, and it was never discussed. Now, this was not in Three Rivers, but the consent agenda is a part of nearly every municipal agenda. It's meant for things that are innocuous, things that don't need discussion, things that it would just be tedious to sit down and go through one by one by one. It's generally used for things like the check register and meeting minutes from the advisory boards. So instead of saying, okay, and we have the library board minutes here. Do I have a motion to approve? Okay, thank you. So moved. Great. Do I have a second? Thank you too. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Library minutes are approved. Okay, we've got the minutes from the DDA meeting here, and you do this for every meeting minute group you have. Instead, they stick that in what's called the consent agenda. And again, like I said before, it's just voted up or down. Now, in some municipalities, citizens have the right, in every municipality, the commission has the right to pull something off the consent agenda and bring it up for discussion. In some municipalities, the public has that option too. I was kind of known for doing that in Kalamazoo, and boy, did it tick off the commissioners up there. I'd see that they were spending $250,000 on something, and right in the beginning, before they approved the agenda, hi, excuse me, yep, I'd like to pull item C off the agenda today for discussion. Okay, adding item C to the regular agenda. And they all roll their eyes. Some of the commissioners didn't, though, because some of them probably wanted to do the same thing. And in fact, I can definitely tell you there was one time that a commissioner reached out to me and said, you might want to check the consent agenda tonight. There's something that might need to get pulled off. And I knew what they were talking about, and they knew that I knew too, and we did pull it off, and it did get some discussion. So anyway, that's where things can get hidden, though, because it's not always just meeting minutes and the check register. And even the check register is something that I think everybody should look at because it's essentially our budget. So you get to see what's actually being spent. Now, just a couple weeks ago, I looked at just the past 2 consent agendas. I noticed that the city manager's office, their line items equaled, for, I believe this is for the year, $252,000. That's a lot of money. 10,000 of it was just for vehicle lease fees. And also looking at the rest of it, we lease a lot of vehicles. I don't know if anybody watching follows Dave Ramsey, but he calls it fleecing a vehicle because leased vehicles are just not a really fiscally responsible way to own a car. I would never lease a vehicle myself, ever. And to see that we're doing it in so many departments and so many tens of thousands of dollars makes me really excited to dive into our budget and see what we can do. So that's just some things. I noticed that there's $2,000 for internet and phone for the city commissioner's office. Why are we paying $2,000 separately for the phone and internet for the city commissioner's office? I mean, they're at City Hall. Why do they need a separate internet connection or a separate phone line? Maybe they're divvying it out, but there's not enough information for the public to make that determination, and that's not right. I also saw $5,000 in training and tuition. Okay, I can get behind that, but shouldn't our city be in better shape if we're spending $5,000 a year to train the people, which is basically, I believe, Joe Bippis and an assistant? Shouldn't we be in better shape? I would think so. There's also $68,000 for retirement funds. That's a lot of money to be putting in a retirement account for, just max a couple of people. So again, the grand total is $252,000. And it's just mind-boggling to me that there's essentially no transparency other than these kind of broken down line items into where that money is actually going. So that's something that's sort of hidden in the consent agenda. Now, back to why I talked about the library in the first place. I wanted to make sure that you all know how much I love the library and how much I love the people who are there, because something that I picked out of the consent agenda, sorry, bumped my computer. Something that I picked out of the consent agenda has to do with our executive director of the library. Her name is Erin. I think her last name is pronounced Zabonik. I've never met her that I know of, but I imagine she's lovely. I have nothing against this woman. She's running a beautiful library. I love it there. I just told you about 100 reasons why I love it. So please, please, please do not take this in any way, shape, or form as a jab at her. Okay, I have to bring up her name. I have to bring up this money because it's hidden in the consent agenda and there's no explanation. So she was recently given a $4,000 bonus. And the only information given was that it was for going above and beyond and completing the master's program. No information on what this master's program is. In my experience, a master's program is when you get your master's degree. Like people would say, oh, what are you in for? Oh, well, my program is public administration, or I'm in the public administration program. So, however, it could be something completely different. I don't know. It was literally just those words for going above and beyond and completing the master's program. That doesn't tell me why somebody should get a $4,000 bonus. Does she deserve it? Sure, maybe. I don't know. All I'm saying is that we as citizens who are digging into agendas and downloading PDFs and looking through things and having to blow them up on your screen because they're super tiny, we should be able to know exactly why somebody got a $4,000 bonus, especially when you compare that to the fact that our fire captain got a $588 raise in the 23-24 year. And I see some comments in here. Thank you, Linda. I appreciate you so much. Yes, I'm digging through this. So I just don't like that these things get hidden in a consent agenda and we have no understanding of what they're for. I looked in it and said that it came from the fund balance. The fund balance? Well, I mean, again, I don't know. I'm not saying that Erin doesn't deserve it, but that's a lot of money to get a bonus for and not really truly explain it to the public. So one of the things the commission is supposed to do when they get their packet is read it. You're supposed to read the things you're going to be voting on. I'm surprised that no one said, so we just gave our executive director at the library a $4,000 bonus for going above and beyond and completing the master's program. Can anyone tell me a little more about that? That's what I would have done if I was sitting on that dais. Actually, to be quite honest, I probably would have seen that when I read it in the first place before we got to the meeting, would have made a couple of phone calls and would have been able to say to the public, regarding our consent agenda, there's something that I want to bring up. And it may have been praise for Erin. I could have easily used that as an opportunity to highlight a wonderful employee who's, running a wonderful part of our city that we all need and deserve. But our city commission failed to do so. So now we don't really know why Erin got this raise other than for going above and beyond and completing some master's program. But that's not good enough for me. And if it's not good enough for you, then I ask for your vote in November, because I'm going to go through each and every page of that packet. As a grown-up who went to college, I'm used to having homework, and this is the kind that I love. I'll be honest, I had most of my master's classes on either Monday or Tuesday nights, and I miss having homework to do for Monday and Tuesday nights. So I want this to be my homework, and I need your help if I'm going to make this my homework. So please vote for me on November 4th, and you'll get to hear about things that are being hidden. So thank you so much. I see I've got some more comments. I won't read those, but I can't disagree. So thank you again. If you have any questions for me, I want to make it very easy to email me and to get in touch with me. Until I am elected, you can feel free to reach out to me at my regular email, which is angeljohnston@gmail.com. So it's just my name and then the letters TR. It's angeljohnston@gmail.com. I do check my email every single day. I do work an 8 to 4 job, so please give me a break. I might not be able to get back to you during the day, but I usually check it at lunch when I'm done walking Maggie. So thank you for tuning in tonight. It's so fun to actually see comments and see that people are starting to pay attention. And I'm really glad that I got to share a lesson from one of my absolute favorite mentors. So he doesn't check social media very much, but I think I'm going to send this one to his wife so he can take a look. And so she knows that I love her just as much and that someday I will talk about the amazing things that she's taught me too. So thanks, everybody. I appreciate you tuning in and I hope you have a wonderful night. Take care.